Hi, I am an artist and I think today I have discovered a way to make this very natural looking canvas in Krita. So what is the big deal here anyway? Well, in Krita, if you want to make a natural looking texture, what you usually do is first making a color layer and then making a fill layer, filling it with a pattern of your choice, and then putting that layer into overlay blending mode, adjusting the opacity if needed, and ta-da! You have this. Looking fine, but now here's the problem. Where can you paint on this thing? So option 1, painting over the whole thing just like how you normally would. But you can see that this is not how painting IRL works, you know. Like putting some kind of paint on a canvas should not grant you the power of erasing all of the texture underneath like this. Like the canvas still exists, you know. So yeah, this one is weird. Okay, so if we don't want to erase the texture, then how about sandwiching your paint layer in between the texture and the color layers? Then this is also kinda weird, because when painting traditionally, you know, especially with thicker paint like acrylic or oil, the paint itself does cover up the texture of the painting surface a little bit, like not too much, like not to the point of erasing it out of existence like in option 1, but also not nothing, like to the point we can see every single detail like in option 2 over here. So in other words, this method doesn't really make a convincing natural looking canvas. And to be honest, I kinda gave up on the whole natural canvas thing when I got to that point, because I don't really want to do anything more complicated than that for what essentially is just a background. Until the day I discovered this brush, the Gloom Dirty and Dry Canvas brush. So what is special about this brush? Well, this one has a baked-in canvas texture, and the great thing about it is that the texture didn't change when changing the brush size. Like, I don't know how that one worked, maybe black magic or something, but looking at this, I saw hope. Like, if I cover the whole surface with this brush to make it all the same texture, and then paint on top, wouldn't that make the most natural looking canvas ever? Like, yes, on theory. But in reality, this happened, so no to big brushes today. So next, I did do some digging around and found the texture of the brush, because I figured it must be existing somewhere in Krita. So I found it on this mystical land of Krita that I rarely ever set my foot on, by the way. Anyway, then I used the method I just talked about in the beginning of the video with this texture I found. Except I went to this neighbor tab and set this to 60% because I discovered this 60 number from the mystical land a few moments ago. And I also set the canvas blending mode to be grain extract because it much better than the overlay mode. I don't know why, it just does. And then we paint. And now we have this beautiful and consistent looking texture like this. So yeah, this is the combination I use for this kind of effect. And I think by far this is the most natural looking thing that I ever discovered in Krita. For now at least. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the study past me was doing on the screen, and it was jelly. Why jelly? Because it has been quite a while since my last jelly study, so I figured it would be nice to study them again. And yes, I was right. It felt really nice painting it. Even though at first, I have to admit that I was skeptical of this jelly reference because I thought it might look a little bit too boring, like maybe too simple for what I do on the channel nowadays. Like literally, it's just a jelly cube on a ceramic spoon. Like nothing more, nothing less. But for some god known reasons, I kept coming back to it and looking at it. So at some point, I was like, okay, whatever, I will study you. Even though I know it is just spoon and jelly, there's like nothing to feel weirdly attached to it like this. But okay, I'm surrendered. And then things got weirder, and I got really sentimental halfway through the study. Like, maybe it was because I also posted my first ever jelly study on YouTube around this time last year. Like, I was listening to the same kind of music, painting the jelly in the same-ish color, and at the time I also felt really lost. But so yeah, maybe that was the reason why. And By the way, because I was overwhelmed with all my weird feelings about this jelly cube, I forgot to turn on the time-lapse recording. So I guess I have to whip up something for the shot this week then. That's fine. Anyhow, coming back to the jelly itself, even though I still think this one was a touch bit too simple, but now I do think the simple nature of it really did make the canvas texture shine a lot more. Like, you can see and almost feel the power of the texture, you know, how it elevates the quality of something as simple as a cube of jelly to something so sophisticated like this. I am impressed. Yeah. So, that was a nice looking jelly, but still there was something inside me that wasn't feeling satisfied. Like, part me wanted to do something more. So I decided to do this dumpling, because when will be the time I will study a dumpling on my channel anyway. So yeah, random, but dumpling it is. And for a more serious reason, it was because I wanted to challenge myself with this level of translucency. You know, kinda opaque, but also kinda not. Because I have never done it before. Like, as you can see earlier, I am the most comfortable with something really transparent, like the first jelly, you know. And yeah, this one sure was a challenge, because at first it was looking like this, okay? You know the feeling when you expect something to be easy and turns out it is not? Yeah, that was the feeling. And then I planned to walk from the left to the right with the dumpling, but then something was looking off. Like, really off. So I just temporarily gave up on that part and jumped on the right instead. And then that was the moment when I realized this thing sure looked deceptively monotonous, didn't it? Like, you look at it and be like, this should be just a gray and a deep blue and every shade between the two of them, right? Easy. But nah. Please tell me, why did I have to use green and purple and red on a supposedly white looking part of the dumpling? Like, physics, science, like the yellow and the orange part, I get it. That was the feeling, but purple? Green? On this part? Like what? Huh? So yeah, that maybe was a little bit too much. Anyway, let's come back to the canvas. Even though I said this is the most natural looking canvas effect I ever made, I was still quite surprised by how well this thing emulated the oil or acrylic on canvas look. Even though I only know one thing or two about acrylic and almost nothing about oil. So yeah, that can be a problem. So if any of you are someone who works a lot with oil, I am really curious about your opinion. Like, does this thing look somewhat okay, like convincing to you? Please let me know. But personally, I still think this looks pretty convincing. And I can say the key here is that both the canvas and the brush have to have the same matching texture. So according to that logic, we can totally make any brush and canvas combination work as long as they have the same texture. Yeah, maybe. Well, I have to let that one marinate a little bit more though. So yeah. Anyway, I think after a few more highlights here and there, we are done with this one too. So let's check them out, shall we?